On today's show, how the Minnesota Timberwolves upset the defending champion Denver Nuggets in Game 1 of the second round. Anthony Edwards' meteoric rise into superstardom, looking a little like Mike, if I say so myself. It's all coming up on today's Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, today's episode is brought to you by DoorDash. Moms are a gift, right? So give her the best this Mother's Day. Get gifts that are as thoughtful as she is with DoorDash. Select from hundreds of expertly crafted bouquets to the best of tech to different self-care essentials and so much more delivered right to her doorstep. Look, you might have some really big plans to take her out for a nice Mother's Day lunch or a fancy dinner, and that's incredible, right? But what better way to surprise mom than to have a gift waiting for her on her doorstep the moment she wakes up on her special day? Or it could be a special day for a number of moms in your life, right? Use DoorDash to make sure that they all know that you're thinking about them. Get all your Mother's Day gifts all in one place. Get 50% off of your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flour, convenience, grocery, or retail order. Now with promo code LOCKEDONNBA using DoorDash. Again, that's LOCKEDONNBA. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. Joining us now to break down the Game 1 upset, Minnesota Timberwolves winning against the Denver Nuggets 106-99 is none other than Ben Beecken, the host of Locked On Wolves. You can track down wherever you listen to your podcasts and on YouTube. Just search Locked On Wolves. And Ben, first things first, this was such an incredible game. I think this was easily the best game of the playoffs now up to this point. I was very much looking forward to this matchup, Nuggets-Wolves, and this Game 1 was easily lived up to all the hype, all the expectations coming in this. I desperately need 7 games of this. As just a pure basketball fan, I want 7 games of the series.
Yeah, however many games this goes, be it, it's probably going to be 6 or 7. I think they're all going to be good. I think they're all going to be close games, and that's what everybody wants, right? That's what general NBA fans want. That's what I want when I watch any other non-Wolves playoff game. I just want a good game. I generally don't care who wins. We just want to be entertained, right? And this was, you said it. I think it was peak, the best game we've seen thus far in the playoffs.
And at the core of it was Anthony Edwards absolutely playing out his mind. I mean, obviously, just this year, but then especially this postseason, right? His performance against the Suns, now this Game 1 against the defending champion Nuggets. It really feels like we're witnessing Anthony Edwards' ascent into true superstardom, right? With less than 2 minutes to go in this game. He had Jamal Crawford on the mic on the broadcast talking about it. He's saying he looks very similar to somebody. I'm not going to say who it is, but he looks a little like Mike out there. And so, we saw him do the Michael Jordan clear out at one point with like a minute and a half left to go in the game, back down his defender, spun, turned, nailed the bucket, immediate timeout. It really feels like he has ascended this postseason.
He absolutely has, and we're only 5 games into however long this run goes, and we're starting to see people, Crawford on the broadcast, understandably dancing around, but still insinuating what we all knew he was insinuating. We're seeing people just flat out say it now, and obviously it's unfair for a 22-year-old, but what he's doing is unprecedented. There's all kinds of stats floating around out there about, the last player. I think it was the one that I like the most is the only 2 players to ever have consecutive 40-plus point playoff games, age 22 or younger, are Kobe and Anthony Edwards, and he did it in Game 4 of the Phoenix series and Game 1 of the Denver series. So, and you go back 3 games now. In Game 3 against Phoenix, he scored 36 points. Game 4, he scored 40. Game 1 of this series, he scored 43. All 3 games above 50% shooting from the field. All 3 games, I guess the one game against Phoenix, there were a few more turnovers, but only 1 turnover in this game against Denver, who's a good defensive team. And he shot almost 60% from the floor, 3 of 7 from 3. And it's the full bag, right? Like you said, like he could do the MJ Kobe turnaround. He can dunk on you like he did in the Suns game. The dunk over KD that went viral immediately. He could do it defensively, which is very rare. And they were having the debate on the broadcast, Reggie Miller and Jamal Crawford. Is he the best 2-way player in the league right now? I think SGA may have something to say about that. I think there's a couple others that are in the conversation, but he can literally do it all. There isn't an obvious hole in his game right now. There's things that are better than others, but he is about as well-rounded of a player, certainly of a two guard, of a perimeter player that you're going to find.
And we can't talk about this Wolves win without the fourth quarter flurry from Naz Reid, who had 2 points going into that final frame and then absolutely went bonkers in the fourth frame. He had that one stretch where I think it was either 8 or 10 straight points for the Wolves or something in that fourth quarter period. He had the made 3-pointer, then he had the putback dunk, he had the one. Like it was a Naz Reid takeover in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and it's something Wolves fans are used to seeing, and now the rest of the NBA world, the basketball world, is going to see it. There's a reason he's sixth man of the year, and frankly, he didn't play all that well in the Phoenix series either. He had a couple of moments, but it wasn't Naz's best basketball. And for the first 2+ quarters in this game, he didn't look like himself either. Then all of a sudden, a switch flipped, and there was a Rudy quote going around that he said after the game that I told Naz, like, hey, don't worry about anything that's happened to this point. Just be one of those types of quotes. And that, apparently helped. And he saw, I can't remember. I think he had an easy dunk or layup or something that went down first. And then it was like, all right, maybe this will get him rolling. And then sure enough, he finishes with 16 points on 11 shots. He does all of the above, right? He can make threes. He can, he's athletic. He can also guard. He was certainly part of throwing bodies at Nikola Jokic, and was huge when Karl-Anthony Towns went down with 5 fouls, to the point where it was a little surprising they put Cat back in the game with a couple minutes to play, up 6 or 7 or whatever it was. But yeah, Naz was awesome. I mean, this game was like Ant owned the first quarter. The second quarter was a bit shared, more between Ant and Cat. Third quarter was all Cat, and then the fourth quarter was Naz, and then the final couple of minutes Ant takeover. It was every quarter was kind of owned by somebody, and Naz Reid was huge to kind of bridge that fourth quarter until Ant fully took over.
And I'm glad you brought up the defensive angle of this, because it really did feel like and look like over the course of this game, Nikola Jokic was just worn out by the end. I mean, he was, you could see like whenever he'd go to the free throw line, he took like extra time, like tying his pants or checking his shoes or just trying to get every extra breath that he could get, because being thrown or being able to throw Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns and Naz Reid at you, as well as the number of double teams and soft traps and just everything that the Wolves were throwing at Jokic defensively. He finished the game with 32 points. He had to work for those 32, 11 of 25 shooting, including 7 turnovers. So Naz Reid gets some of the credit there, but I want to make sure we shine a light on Rudy Gobert, who absolutely shut down the connection between Jokic and Aaron Gordon, which the Nuggets usually abuse against teams constantly on the offensive end.
Yeah, Karl-Anthony Towns took the primary assignment and was physical with Jokic, and ultimately ended up in some foul trouble, which was, as always with Cat, mostly his own doing. There were some silly ones in there, but Karl-Anthony Towns was the first line of defense, and it's actually very similar, obviously very different players, but similar to what the Wolves did with Kevin Durant, which was, hey, we'll put size on him with Karl-Anthony Towns. Towns is mobile enough. He's big enough. He's enough in each of these areas that he can provide enough resistance to make things a bit complicated, or at least more challenging, as you said, tire out Jokic. And then we've got Rudy Gobert here that could lurk at the rim and quote unquote guard Aaron Gordon. And the play you're referencing, when that kind of patented Joker to Gordon lob when Gordon's lurking in the dunker spot, you don't know if Jokic is going to shoot it or throw that lob pass. And I don't know how often that pass gets broken up. It's not often. And Rudy Gobert baited Joker into that. He knew what he was going to try and do. That's film study. It's being a 3-time, soon to be 4-time defensive player of the year, where he kind of feigned like, hey, I'm going to come up and guard this, but no, wait, I know what you're doing. I'm going to hang back, or I'm going to get back. I'm going to recover. I'm going to tip this away. And it led to a transition. I think a 3-pointer on the other end. It was really like kind of a microcosm of what Rudy Gobert, the impact he can have, because one-on-one Joker's numbers against him were okay. I mean, like, because it's Jokic, right? He's the best player in the league. He's a multi-time MVP. Like, of course he's going to score against anybody one-on-one, but what Rudy does is he makes everybody else's defense level up, and it gives everybody else the confidence. It gives Cat the confidence to defend. And guarding Joker, he actually defended. He didn't commit a shooting foul actually against Jokic. There were some on the floor. He committed fouls on some other guys. But he didn't commit a shooting foul against Jokic, and he knew, hey, Rudy has my back. And Rudy Gobert absolutely controlled the paint. The Timberwolves out-rebounded the Nuggets by 8. Rudy led the game in rebounding, and he only scored 6 points. But he was a massive factor, and it's kind of underscores what Tim Connolly knew what he was doing. He acquired Rudy Gobert. He knew that the West was going to go through Jokic for a period of time, And just having, I mean, the Nuggets don't have another guy above, they don't have a guy off the bench above 6'7" that's in the rotation, right? I mean, Peyton Watson's their biggest bench player by far. They don't want to play DeAndre Jordan. They don't want to play Zeke Naji. They might have to. And the Wolves just have big body after big body. I mean, even Kyle Anderson would be one of the biggest players in the Nuggets rotation. And he's like the Wolves' 8th guy right now and is playing small ball 4 minutes basically and a little bit at the 5. So, yeah, the size and credit to Kat, credit to Rudy, and credit to Naz for just being physical and willing to battle.
Being able to throw all that size of the Nuggets is certainly a plus for the Wolves. What adjustments will we see as we approach and get into game 2 of this series? Can the Wolves go up 2-0 on the defending champion Nuggets? You're going to have to cover for all that and so much more over at Locked On Wolves. Ben, thanks for stopping by Locked On NBA with me.
Of course. Thanks for having me.